Armed Guard Rules of Engagement, Principles, Purpose, and Practice. Rules of engagement, ROE, are a crucial part of the operations of armed guards, whether they are employed in military, private security, law enforcement, or maritime protection contexts. ROE define the circumstances, conditions, and limitations under which armed personnel may initiate or continue the use of force. These rules are not just legal guidelines. They are ethical boundaries that help ensure that force is applied with restraint, accountability, and in accordance with national and international law. Understanding and adhering to ROE is essential for maintaining professionalism, avoiding legal repercussions, and protecting both lives and property. Purpose and importance of rules of engagement. The primary purpose of rules of engagement is to govern the use of force. They are designed to ensure that armed guards use force only when necessary and proportionate to the threat they face. ROE provide legal and operational clarity, offering protection to both the armed guard and the organization they represent. In hostile or potentially violent situations, ROE help guards make quick, ethically sound decisions while avoiding unnecessary escalation or harm. In addition to operational clarity, ROE also promote accountability and transparency. Every use of force, especially deadly force, must be justified, and ROE provide the framework for evaluating whether an armed guard's actions were appropriate. In court cases, investigations, or internal reviews, ROE are used as a standard to determine whether a guard followed procedure or violated policy. Moreover, ROE are vital for building trust with the public. Armed guards often operate in sensitive environments such as private businesses, public events, government buildings, and maritime vessels. By adhering to well-established rules, they demonstrate discipline, professionalism, and a commitment to upholding the law rather than acting with impunity. Key components of Armed Guard ROE. While the specifics of ROE can vary depending on the jurisdiction, employer, or mission, they typically include several universal components. 1. Self-defense and defense of others. Most ROE permit the use of force when it is necessary to defend oneself or others from imminent harm. This is a universally recognized principle. Deadly force is only authorized when there is an immediate threat of death or serious bodily harm. For example, an armed guard may draw and use their weapon if someone is pointing a firearm at them or at a civilian under their protection. Second, proportionality. Force must always be proportionate to the threat. If a suspect is unarmed and nonviolent, the use of deadly force would likely be considered excessive. ROE require guards to assess each situation and apply only the minimum force necessary to neutralize the threat or control the situation. Third, de-escalation. First, a fundamental principle of modern EROE is that armed guards must attempt to de-escalate situations before resorting to force. This includes using verbal commands, maintaining a calm demeanor, and trying to resolve conflict without violence. Force should always be the last resort, not the first option. Fourth, escalation of force, EOF, or continuum of force. ROE often include an escalation of force model, which outlines a series of progressive steps, from verbal warnings to physical restraint, and ultimately, deadly force if necessary. This helps guards apply an appropriate level of response based on the subject's actions and the overall threat environment. 5. Positive identification. Before engaging a target or suspect, guards must make a positive identification, confirming that the person poses a genuine threat. This rule helps prevent tragic incidents like mistaken identity or wrongful use of force against innocent individuals. Context-specific applications of ROE. Military versus private security. In military operations, ROE are typically dictated by a chain of command and tailored to the rules of armed conflict and international law. Soldiers follow ROE that align with the Geneva Conventions and applicable host nation laws. Armed guards in private security, however, operate under different constraints. Their authority to use force is often limited to self-defense, protection of property, or defense of clients, depending on local law. Maritime security. Maritime armed guards, often employed to protect vessels against piracy in high-risk areas, such as the Gulf of Aden, operate under specialized rules of engagement. They must adhere to the laws of the vessel's flag state and international maritime law. Their ROE typically includes strict protocols for identifying threats, e.g., suspicious approach by a skiff, issuing warnings, using non-lethal measures like water cannons, and only using firearms as a last resort. Civilian and event security. In urban or civilian environments, such as guarding banks, concerts, or high-profile individuals, ROE are often stricter. The presence of large crowds, bystanders, and media requires guards to act with exceptional care. Any use of force can draw public scrutiny and legal consequences. Guards in these roles must be highly trained in communication, conflict resolution, and situational awareness. Training and legal considerations. Training in ROE is not optional. It is mandatory and ongoing. Armed guards must understand their specific ROE, memorize them, and practice applying them in real-world scenarios through simulations and drills. Regular training helps ensure guards do not overreact or freeze under pressure. It also includes scenario-based learning, where guards must decide when, how, and whether to use force in complex situations. Legal considerations are central to ROE. If a guard uses force outside the scope of their ROE, they may face civil lawsuits, criminal charges, or termination of employment. In many jurisdictions, the use of excessive force, especially deadly force, must be thoroughly justified, and ROE provide the basis for that justification. Challenges in applying ROE. Despite training, applying ROE in real time can be extremely challenging. Stress, fear, time pressure, and incomplete information can impair judgment. Guards must quickly assess whether a threat is real, whether it's imminent, and what level of force is appropriate. Split-second decisions may have life-altering consequences. Another challenge is public perception. In today's media-driven world, armed guards may find their actions recorded and shared instantly. This puts immense pressure on them to not only act lawfully, but appear to do so transparently. This makes adherence to ROE and clear documentation of actions more important than ever. Conclusion. Rules of engagement are essential to the responsible, legal, and ethical use of force by armed guards. They provide a structured framework that balances the need for protection with the rights and safety of others. By outlining when and how force can be used, ROE help guards act with clarity and confidence, even in high-stress situations. Whether in military operations, private security, maritime protection, or public events, adherence to ROE reflects professionalism, reduces liability, and ultimately saves lives. The continuous study, practice, and improvement of these rules are critical to the evolving role of armed guards in a complex and increasingly security-conscious world.